and welcome to a new episode of the West Asia Post. I am Ghadi Francis, your host, coming from Beirut, Lebanon. For almost a year now, every sunset, every sunrise in West Asia has been clouded by debris and smoke. 1 year, death and destruction of innocent civilians has become the new norm. This has been raising questions across the world about military, about morality, about international law. We raise a question now. At what cost would there be peace? Iran and Israel. These two have been involved in a war for decades, but it wasn't like that. Some call it a Cold War. But this year, things started to get real. For the second time, hundreds of Iranian missiles hit Israeli targets. In the following report, we decode how things came to that.
Sworn enemies, Iran and Israel have never been closer to igniting a regional war in West Asia. On Tuesday, Tehran launched a massive strike on Israel, raining down nearly 200 missiles after its axis of resistance faced heavy blows. Starting with the killing of Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh on its soil, followed by the death of Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah. Both Iran and Israel have now warned each other against further attacks.
We are not in pursuit of war with Israel. They promised us peace, but Israel has terrorized our guests in Tehran during our presidential inauguration. We want to establish peace. If you disagree, peace will not be established.
We are at the height of a difficult war against Iran's axis of evil, which wants to destroy us. This will not happen because we will stand together, and with God's help, we will win together. We will get the hostages back from the south, and we will get our citizens back to the north, and we will guarantee the victory of Israel.
The region is now bracing for an Israeli response. Question is, how and when will Israel strike?
We are at a very dangerous point in time. Escalation after escalation. First and foremost for civilians in Gaza, Lebanon, the West Bank, Israel, and I fear beyond. This goes to the very core of what human rights is all about. For everyone, everywhere. Protection of civilians is of utmost importance, as is respect for international humanitarian law and international human rights law.
This year, Iran and Israel stepped away from this shadow war and launched direct attacks on each other. But what led to this escalation? This goes back to the 1970s. When the terrifying Tehran-Tel Aviv tango began. In 1979, Iran's pro-Western leader Mohammad Reza Shah, who regarded Israel as an ally, was thrown out of power in an Islamic revolution that installed a new theocratic regime in the country. As Israel invaded Lebanon in 1982, Iran's Revolutionary Guards worked with fellow Shiite Muslims to set up the Hezbollah, which then became Israel's most dangerous adversary on its borders. The next year, Iran-backed Hezbollah used suicide bombings to expel Western and Israeli forces from Lebanon. Later that year, a car packed with explosives drove into the headquarters of the Israeli military. Israel later withdrew from much of Lebanon. In 2002, murmurs around Tehran's nuclear program gained momentum. Israel sought tough sanctions against Iran, while the country categorically denied all the accusations. 4 years later, Israel and Hezbollah fought a months-long war. The IDF did not achieve its goal of crushing the Hezbollah group. In 2010, Stuxnet, a malicious computer virus widely believed to be the creation of the United States and Israel, was used to attack Iran's Natanz nuclear site. It is the first publicly known cyber attack on industrial machinery. After years of lobbying against the nuclear agreement, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed US President Donald Trump's withdrawal from Iran's nuclear deal in 2018. Between the years 2020 to 2021, Tehran mourned the killings of Iran's Revolutionary Guards commander General Qasem Soleimani and Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, a recognized expert of Iran's nuclear program. In the year 2022, US and Israel took a joint pledge to deny Iran nuclear arms in a show of unity by allies long divided over diplomacy with Tehran. And finally, this year, Iran launched its April attack on Israel. After a suspected Israeli strike on the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus killed 7 officers of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard.
For the past year, the bloodbath in West Asia has been going on, but now at a time when the Iranians and the Israelis have locked horns, the United Nations has warned the world of a bloodbath in the history of West Asia. In the following report, we decode how much blood has been shed here. Take a look.
Since the October 7 terror attack on Israel, one of the world's worst humanitarian crises in decades is unfolding in Gaza. A United Nations report says the ongoing war has reduced Gaza's economy to less than 1/6 its size in 2022. %96 of Gaza's agricultural assets, including farms, orchards, irrigation systems, machinery and storage facilities, are decimated. The enclave's food production capacity is crippled. 82% of the businesses are damaged or destroyed, and 200,000 Palestinians have lost their jobs. Gaza's Ministry of Health says Israeli attacks have killed over 41,000 Palestinians. Thousands are either buried under rubble or threatened by illness. The war has ignited global tensions and insecurity. Military budgets have exploded over the past year. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute says military spending in West Asia shot up 9% last year. Israel's military spending, the second largest in the region after Saudi Arabia, grew 24% to reach $27.5 billion in 2023. Thousands of Israeli reservists have been called up, uprooting them from their jobs and their families. Israeli society is divided on the government's war strategy. Many want the focus to be on the hostages held in Gaza rather than the defeat of Hamas. S&P has revised Israel's fiscal deficit projections, expecting it to reach 9% GDP in 2024 before gradually decreasing to 6% in 2025. The conflict has led to a broader economic slowdown, affecting key sectors like tourism, construction, and agriculture. While Israel's high-tech exports provide some resilience, overall growth forecasts for 2025 are down to 2.2% from 5%. S&P has highlighted that while Israel's balance of payments is a strength, the conflict poses long-term risks. Israel's reserves reached $217 billion as of August 2024, providing a buffer against external shocks. However, if military tensions escalate, particularly with Iran, the outlook for Israel's economy could worsen. Oil prices climbed over 3% on Wednesday as Israel and the United States vowed retribution over Iran's biggest ever direct attack on Tel Aviv. Iran's oil output rose to a 6-year high of 3.7 million barrels per day in August. At present, Iran accounts for about 4% of global oil output. In case of further escalation, there are concerns that Iran could block the Strait of Hormuz or attack Saudi infrastructure, as it did in 2019. The strait is a choke point through which a fifth of daily oil supply passes. When it comes to military turf, Iran has spent over $10.3 billion in 2023. That's a 0.6% increase from 2022. Tehran says it does not want war, but will respond to Israeli aggression if the need arises.
If they removed their evil from this region, without a doubt, these conflicts, these wars, these clashes will disappear completely. The countries of the region can manage themselves, manage their region, live together in peace, health and well-being.
In another escalation of the conflict, the Israeli military on Wednesday sent regular infantry and armored units to join ground operations in southern Lebanon against the Hezbollah group. Lebanese authorities say the recent exchange of fire has killed 1,000 people and forced over 1 million to flee their homes. A Fitch review says prolonged cross-border attacks between Hezbollah and Israel will cause the Lebanese economy to contract by up to 5% in 2024. This is mainly because significant physical damage and the displacement of thousands of residents will cause economic activity in most sectors to halt in the south and Bekaa areas that make up a third of Lebanon's population and labor force.
We're looking at tens of thousands, but we expect that those figures will start to rise. And as I said earlier on, there was already significant displacement from the south even before this latest escalation. So the situation is extremely alarming. It's very chaotic, and we are doing what we can to support the government.
The Israeli military carried out air attacks on Yemen last month. The IDF reportedly used dozens of military aircraft, including fighter jets and refueling planes, to attack seaports and power plants used to import oil for military use by the Houthis. The strategic port of Hodeidah, where most of the beleaguered country's imports come in, was hit, as were the Ras Khatib, Al-Hali and Corniche power stations and the main oil terminal at Ras Isa near the port of Al-Salif. Millions are affected after the power stations that feed multiple governorates were damaged. The attacks could potentially lead to a fuel shortage in the short term as well, since the Ras Isa terminal is a major hub used by the Houthis.
Lebanon is going through a very tough war. The Israelis striked the chief of Hezbollah, Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah, in the middle of the southern suburb of Beirut. They are trying to carry on a ground invasion, and they are bombing relentlessly Beirut and other places of Lebanon in the south and in Bekaa. But despite all these, On the ground, Hezbollah fighters have been ambushing the Israelis. And inside the axis of the resistance, they are saying that the death of Nasrallah would only make the deterrence stronger and the fighters angrier. We tell you more in this report.
Believe me, from the moment we lost him, our morale dropped. He was everything to us and he was the one that protected us from everything. What can we say? God punished that culprit and God have mercy on him.
Israel dealt heavy blows to Hezbollah last week by assassinating its leader Hassan Nasrallah, a towering figure who turned the group into Lebanon's top military and political force. While speculation over who will lead the Lebanese group remains, Tehran's axis of resistance claims the loss has only made it stronger. The role, influence and power of the group continues to mystify many. Established in response to the 1982 Israel's invasion of Lebanon, Hezbollah has since evolved into one of the most powerful factions within modern Lebanon, one that combines domestic and international political reach. Hezbollah's identity, both as an armed group and a political organization, allied with its extensive welfare program, has earned the group significant heft within Lebanon's parliament. However, in recent years, Hezbollah's political fortunes have come under pressure as its controversial involvement in the Syrian civil war. In Lebanon, Hezbollah oversees the running of hospitals, schools, and welfare organizations. Hezbollah's internal structure is highly centralized and hierarchical, with its leadership primarily guided by its Shura Council. At the top of the Shura Council sits the Secretary General. Until Friday, that role was filled by Hassan Nasrallah. 5 distinct bodies report to Shura, which include the political, parliamentary, executive, judicial, and jihad councils. The functions of the political and parliamentary councils are largely evident in their title, with the former responsible for maintaining Hezbollah's political strategies and alliances, while the latter directs the group's parliamentary activities. The executive sect handles the finances, while the Judicial Council settles internal disputes. It is the Jihad Council that oversees Hezbollah's military activities. Hezbollah is considered Israel's fiercest enemy on its borders. With an estimated 130,000 rockets in its armory, Hezbollah is said to own an extensive array of military hardware. This includes precision-guided missiles, drones, anti-tank missiles, and an extensive number of rockets.
The Mossad is responsible for killing many Iranians, many Lebanese, many Palestinians throughout the years. In the following report, we tell you more about this organization.
Israeli spy agency Mossad has a long history of covert operations in West Asia. It is the second largest espionage agency in the West after the CIA. Currently headed by David Barney, Mossad has 7,000 staff members and an annual budget of $3 billion. Selected through a secret process privy only to a select few in the Israeli Prime Minister's office, Barney succeeded Yossi Cohen as Mossad chief in June 2021. Mossad has several departments, but not much is known about its internal structure. Its vast network of informants and agents are active within Palestinian militant groups and also West Asian countries like Lebanon, Syria, and Iran. The Collections Department is Mossad's largest division. It is responsible for espionage operations around the world. Political activities are controlled by the Political Action and Liaison Department that works with friendly foreign intelligence services and nations with which Israel does not have formal diplomatic relations. Mossad's Special Operations, or Metzada Division, carries out the infamous assassinations, sabotage, paramilitary and psychological warfare. The research department produces weekly reports, while the LAP or Lohama Psychologie department is responsible for psychological warfare, propaganda and deception. Iran blames some of its biggest cyber attacks on Israel, the latest being the pager explosions in Lebanon or the killing of its top leaders. However, Hamas's October 7 attack on Israel is largely seen as Tel Aviv's intelligence failure. Questions are raised on how Hamas managed to stockpile thousands of rockets and missiles, escaping detection by the Israeli intelligence. Equally mystifying is the failure of its ever-reliable Iron Dome missile defense system to intercept the incoming projectiles from Gaza.
In the last part of this episode, we will go to Gaza, where it all started. The small, besieged strip is now ruins, but the people there insist on life. We tell you the story of a food blogger that feeds the children in Khan Yunis. Take a look.
The language of cooking is a global language. You are talking about the culture of food. Food is considered a culture. You are addressing the whole world through their culture and through food. I also try to link the food that I make here to global food.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the latest from the world's most volatile region. I'm Redi Francis, signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.
Business Masters is a wonderful initiative. It not just talks about what drives business, it also talks about the leader and what drives the leader who runs the business as well.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at WION.com.
This week on Tech It Out, we tell you about a new scam that can steal your money. Find out about new safety measures for teens on Instagram. And we explain how Australia plans to protect users on dating apps. This and more on WION World is One at these times.
Let's give the people what they want.
As Joker Folie à Deux hits screens, we tell you everything about the much anticipated release. Meet Indian filmmaker Amit Sharma as he talks about Maidan, movies and Oscars. And remember the Harry Potter professors who've left behind an everlasting legacy. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
3 men in Benin, including a former minister and the man in charge of President Patrice Talon's security, have been arrested on suspicion of plotting a coup. A group of disabled Kenyan women makes a living by sewing reusable sanitary pads. The money they earn by selling this environmentally friendly product means they don't have to go to the streets of Mombasa to beg. And a South African woman who could be the oldest living person in the world celebrates what is said to be her 118th birthday with a small party at her care home in a town just inland from Cape Town. That's this week on World of Africa at these times on WION. World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
This week on Inside South Asia, we take a look at a new strategic alliance in Asia between China, Russia, Iran, and Pakistan. Is this a counter to the Indo-Pacific alliance? Relentless rain wreak havoc in India and Pakistan. Floods and landslides kill 200 people. And Calcutta in India bids farewell to its iconic tram. All this and much more on Inside South Asia.
From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide, because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. Here's what's coming up in the next 30 minutes. Just a month to go, countdown to the US presidential elections have started with campaigning in its last leg. We tell you which side the race is tilting. Also over in Pakistan, the country is witnessing another wave of protests by PTI. Imran Khan sits behind bars, but his supporters are out and about.
There is actually an honest question about whether one of the candidates will uphold the oath to the Constitution of the United States.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out. You're fired. You're fired. Get the hell out of here.
We start from the campaign trail of US presidential elections. We are exactly a month away from the D-Day. Mail-in ballots have begun in 11 states, including Connecticut, starting today, and in-person voting will be on 5th of November. Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris is in the battleground state of Wisconsin. She was joined by Liz Cheney. Now, Liz is the daughter of Dick Cheney, who has become an unexpected supporter of Harris, a career Republican who has been known for his making the partisan lines darker. He has taken a leap towards the left and endorsed the Democratic nominee. His daughter says January 6th riots was the turning point, and Harris is convinced.
I know that the most conservative of conservative values is fidelity to our Constitution. I tell you, I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. And as you said, you may not have supported a Democrat for president before, but as you have also said, we both love our country and we revere our democratic ideals.
Over in the Republican camp, Donald Trump was in the swing state of Michigan, where he was busy wooing the voters over gas-powered vehicles. He promised that if he wins, no state would be able to ban gas-powered cars or trucks. In the same rally, Trump also claimed that the aid that is intended for flood-ravaged North Carolina was actually being spent on people that should not be in the country.
People are dying in North Carolina. They're dying all over those 5-6 states. They're dying, and they're getting no help from our federal government because they have no money, because their money's been spent on people that should not be in our country.
Now, Trump is returning to Pennsylvania tomorrow. He'll be going to the city of Butler and holding a rally on the very same ground where he was shot at. It will mark his first visit to the site since the assassination attempt. And joining him will be Republican donor and Trump endorser Elon Musk.
You know, while I'm on the subject of smart people, I want to thank Elon Musk. He endorsed me, more importantly. He endorsed me strongly. He said, you better vote for Trump if you want to save your country.
And to take this conversation further, we are being joined by Jonah Blank, former foreign policy advisor to President Joe Biden, who advised Joe Biden and for 9 years on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Mr. Blank, good to see you again.
Thank you for having me.
As you would know, campaigning is on its last leg, and the two presidential nominees, Republican and Democrat, are hitting the battleground states. But according to you, if it had to be one state that is going to be crucial in this election, which one would that be?
Well, that would be Pennsylvania. Whichever party wins Pennsylvania is extremely likely to win the White House. And that's just because of the American Electoral College system, we have a very odd and outdated way of electing a president, and most Americans are effectively disenfranchised.
Right. Mr. Blank, the US elections are also taking place at a time when West Asia is extremely volatile. And at a time like this, when the Democratic vice presidential nominee Tim Walz says something like this, and I'm quoting him, the Harris administration would work side by side with Muslim Americans. I want to ask you, do you think this attracts more voters or alienates them? Because I'm asking you this because every single politician we see out of Washington, D.C., they're trying to almost toe this very delicate balance because they don't want to upset the American Jews or the American Arabs and Muslims.
That's true, but there is also a much more important element to factor into it, which is evangelical Christians. The strongest supporters of Israel in America are evangelical Christians, and they've moved from a sort of almost non-partisan position several decades ago in the early 1970s to being the core of the Republican Party's base. And support for Israel is pretty widespread in both parties. From a progressive standpoint, there are many progressives, including myself, who really would like to see America take a much more balanced view. But right now, that's probably not the politically dominant view.
Right. Mr. Blank, I think you'll agree with me when I say this. Kamala Harris does, come and carry the liabilities of Joe Biden's administration, but she's also carrying the assets of it. In fact, just an hour back, we got the U.S. Bureau of Labor releasing a report that's stating that the economy has added 254,000 jobs in the month of September. And this is probably the last labor report that we're going to receive before the U.S. elections. So there's also that. And there's also, this of course comes at the heels of one of the largest dock worker strike that has just ended. How do you think all of this is going to play in the minds of the voters?
Yes, the economic news is actually quite good and has been for several years. Compared with almost any other country in the world, the U.S. economy is doing very well. The problem is that American consumers saw the price of groceries and a lot of housing, a lot of other things go up, and they want it to come down. And neither candidate can tell them the truth, which is prices generally don't come down. Just look at your life. Apart from gasoline and a few other commodities, when prices go up, they stay up. And that's not a politically easy thing for anyone, a candidate or the press, to tell them.
All right, Mr. Blank, it's interesting you say that. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION and getting us your insights, as always.
Thank you.
And speaking of that and taking that conversation further, US East Coast and Gulf Coast ports have reopened following a tentative wage deal that ended the largest dock workers' strike in nearly 50 years. The strike, launched by 45,000 International Longshoremen's Association workers, disrupted 36 ports from Maine to Texas and left at least 54 container ships queued for days. A 62% wage increase over 6 years, raising hourly wages from $39 to $63, helped secure the deal, but cargo backlogs will take time to clear. The work stoppage, which began on Tuesday, had been costing the U.S. economy approximately $5 billion per day. The swift resolution of the strike has sent ripple effect through global shipping markets. Freight rates, already in decline, dropped further as the strike ended sooner than anticipated, causing shipping stocks in Asia to fall sharply. Companies like Evergreen Marine and One High Lines saw stock prices drop between 8.8% and 10%. Retailers including Walmart, IKEA and Home Depot, who rely heavily on these U.S. ports, are working to mitigate delays as shipping operations return to normal. The National Retail Federation welcomed the end of the strike.